I saw this video on your channel. So Chris runs the Homeless Romantic podcast, and you're on YouTube and a whole bunch of different places. You do some really great interviews, real down to earth. And you had posted this video, and it's a long video. What is it, like an hour? It's an hour and 16 minutes. So we're
Mhm.
not going to show the whole thing here, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about some of these issues. And Chris, do you want to just say a little bit about kind of what do you do? So what's the purpose of the Homeless Romantic, and why did you start it? And then also I'll ask you kind of what was it about this that made you want to kind of highlight it?
Sure. Thanks a lot, bro, for having me on. I really always appreciate touching base with you. My channel is basically, my strong feeling is, empathy for everything, animals, uh, all the way up to people. Any living creature that has a nervous system or whatever, down to the microbes, should have, you know, some consideration, some empathy for. And basically, my show is trying to interview people and get to the heart of what is the best way to be human. And I go academics, artists, whoever I can, notable people, inspirational people, and ask them questions. And specifically picking out people that may have contributed to addressing, equality for everybody, biodiversity, stuff like this, diversity in the workplace. It doesn't matter, but empathy. And then I just make a show out of it and try to get this out here. But in this particular case, this is a video of some police brutality, which I like to also put out there and spread around um, because we're facing pretty huge problem there with that. So, and it makes me disgusted to know that there's no end to offensive material out there on the internet. It never ends.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I immediately thought of Sherry when I was watching it, which Sherry's had some interactions with the police and with the healthcare system, and there's a lot of issues that intersect with what happened here. Sherry, what were your initial thoughts when I shared this with you?
I figured that it would be uh, a very familiar um, video, um, but I was happy that it's being covered and that you guys are getting it out there, because I think her story is just a typical story of somebody whose life just doesn't matter whatsoever, and where all the what I would call human rights violations, um, just tons of them, uh, are not addressed, never addressed, never heard about, never seen, never talked about. And yet these are very familiar things that I see on a regular basis.
Yeah, and you're there in Kensington. That's pretty much the treatment and the mentality and the coldness is pretty typical amongst like the professional class, right?
Yeah, you know, there's just like, no regard for human dignity, human beings, uh, you know, that homeless people, particularly people that are struggling and low income and are disabled or uh, need some kind of assistance, are just totally shunned upon and disregarded by police, doctors, social workers, um, just you name it. There is no dignity.
Yeah. And we'll do this kind of loosey goosey. So if either of you want to chime in or ask a question or whatever, just
Sure.
feel free. So I thought I would I trimmed this down to 10 minutes. I thought I would just kind of would go through it. It's very short, so like you can the whole thing is on the Homeless Romantics YouTube channel, and the whole thing is not really the whole thing either. I mean, they even like didn't share everything. So, but I think it looks to be quite a great deal of it. There's an hour and
Yeah.
16 minutes. So
I do believe that this was leaked directly from or the Knoxville Police Department from maybe a request for information or something. But anyway, they released it, put their little logo on it. But maybe explain a little bit about what's happening in this video, or kind of set it up.
yeah, so basically, let me just start it, and then because I've got like the little bit of description here.
Mm.
I did include a lot at the beginning to kind of get the setup, and then a lot of the more there's a large portion of it that are just really awful to watch that I just really trimmed down. But I think it's worth watching to get an idea. But I did put extra in the setup here to give people a better idea. So I'll just
Good.
go ahead and play it, and we can pause it at any moment. Just before 8 a.m. on Sunday, February 5th, 2023, Sergeant Brandon Wardlaw arrived at Fort Sanders Regional Medical Center, and this is in Knoxville, in response to a call from Fort Sanders Hospital security regarding a woman since identified as 60-year-old Lisa Edwards, who was reportedly refusing to leave the hospital property after being asked to do so. So, Edwards had been discharged from the hospital prior to this officer arriving.
No, they said they want you to leave.
Yeah, I ain't got nowhere to go.
You got to leave, though. They want you gone.
I don't know what to do, honey.
You got to go somewhere.
Tired.
What?
I'm tired. I had a stroke, and they beat me up last night.
Well, I don't. Who beat you up?
The two security guards in there, and there's 3 nurses.
So the people in the hospital beat you up last night.
They did. They grabbed me out of my chair, ran my belly and this, and I thought,
Well, they say they want you gone, so you got to go. This is their property. No.
I can't walk.
Why can't you walk?
I had a stroke on my left side, and my ankle shattered.
Your ankle shattered,
Yes,
and they kicked you out.
yes. So ask them.
You must have been giving them some problems then.
Huh?
Were you giving them problems?
Yes, I'm here with problems.
Why were you giving them problems then?
Huh?
Why were you giving them problems?
I wasn't giving you problems.
I'm going to go talk to them. Hold on.
Okay.
Came over here from another hospital, and she's hospital hopping. Didn't have anywhere to stay. She was a big pain in the ass inside the hospital. She's shit all over the place, got shit all over her, spiking the staff members, and we kicked her out. Or she got discharged rather, and she doesn't have anywhere to go. So she's like, just call the police, and I ain't going. And she was discharged from Home Memorial.
So she don't have anything wrong with her. She's talking about her ankle shattered and she can't walk.
She's already been discharged. She's already been cleared by the doctor. She just doesn't want to leave.
You've already talked.
So I'll pause it right there. I did put some subtitles in, and some of those inaudible parts I probably could have figured it out if I would have had more time to
Sure.
play with it. But I got the general gist of it. So
Yeah, we got the gist.
thoughts up to this point. I know Sherry probably has 1,000 stories that she could tell that were of situations like this where people are. I mean, there's someone who's claiming they need some help at the hospital. The hospital's not accepting them for whatever reason. The cops get involved.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Either of you.
Sherry?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, this is a familiar story. And like the police officer said, he said, they want you gone. This is private property. And he wasn't kidding. They wanted her gone completely. And that's what they got. I had my son's father. Um, he called me once. He's since passed. But he called me up once, and I was FaceTiming him, and because I was concerned about his leg, he went into the emergency room, and he said, I said, I can't believe they're discharging you. That's a bunch of crap. There's no way that they would discharge you with your leg like that. He was chronically homeless on and off for 18 years. And as he had me on FaceTime and coming out of the emergency room, his leg exploded. So, like, literally, I was screenshotting his leg, bursting open and bleeding all over the place. And he said, "Oh my God, what should I do? What should I do?" I'm like, "Go back into the emergency room because they obviously haven't treated you." Um, but, sadly, we see this more and more. And now, with the introduction, like here at Jefferson Hospital, when you go in, you don't see a person anymore. You see a screen, and the AI assesses you, and so you know um, I mean, all of this, I think, is just preparing us for the direction that the whole country and the whole world is going in, which is no human interaction, no feelings, no compassion for other people. And that's certainly how I'm seeing, the emergency rooms being set up now. They all have public relations people, and you know, and they're really going in a direction of those robots that go, that they push through the hallways, and you have to talk on the screen, and then they assess whether it's emergency or not, and whether or not you can see a doctor. I mean, it's similar to like when you're also incarcerated and you're in jail, right? You think you have a right to converse with your lawyer. No.
No.
See that? No, you don't see humans anymore. You don't talk to them.
Yeah. When
Uh,
there's so many
you
layers to this.
Even if they have the human body, you're still not talking to a human being. You're talking to some kind of sycophant monster where they're like, no, I'm just doing my job. Like, no,
Well,
you're
as you
not. You're
watch
being
this,
an
it's
asshole.
interesting because you have all these people, and I've done, Sherry and I, we did a show talking about what it means to be a professional in this world and professionalism. And that's looked up to, everybody wants to, you're the professional, but actually there's a dehumanizing aspect to being a professional, which involves around protocol, systems, money, finance, property. He mentioned this is your property, the idea of like a hospital, what is it? Is it a private company? Is it a public thing? I mean, the truth is that they kind of play both sides, but like not truly for the benefit of humanity and for people. I mean, ultimately, it's about externalities, cost externalities, but you want the public face, just like we know with the different homeless organizations, using this as an opportunity for real estate development. The whole healthcare system is, they want to have that do-gooding, we're here to help you sort of image. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a business, and this
Yeah.
is not necessarily, we've looked at our cost benefit analysis, and this person is no longer serving that, and so you got to go. So it's kind of like even like there's something dehumanizing about this whole thing, from the people that work in the hospital to even the police officers themselves, because there's like some of them are just straight up shrewd, but also the job itself makes you kind of shrewd. Just like people that go to war have to like, they do a lot to get people's mentality of like dehumanizing the enemy, right? So like there's a process that goes along where people lose their humanity when they're in a position of police officer, if they're in the position of being a hospital administrator. So even the ones that are really bad and shrewd, I actually would blame the system more than anything else, because their products very few people have real agency in this world. There's protocols within the hospital. Then there's protocols with the police. The police show up. Hey, you could tell some of them were like, I don't know about this. And then some of them are just like, you're wasting my time. Like, lady, you just need to, obey, but it's like, there's so many layers to this. And then Sherry kind of alluded to the fact that we're moving into this digital trend. There's a digital transformation that's going on right now that involves shifting us into these dehumanized systems around digital health is a huge piece of that. So yeah, there's a lot going on here.
But it seems like the normalization of that dehumanizing thing has been just capitalist playbook from the get-go. Is just from the very beginning remind people that there are social hierarchies and that people who fall outside of what's expected to them in a capitalist system go to the bottom. Okay, anybody who's creative or thinks differently, or indigenous people who have different ways of doing things and maybe aren't consumerist, trash, put them right at the bottom. And then everything else, like he said in the video, property. This is their property. There are some countries where hospitals aren't fucking private property. Oh, excuse my language. They're not private property. They are
Watch your
public
fucking
property.
mouth.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm a
I'm
profane foul.
I'm joking. I don't really care.
I'm a foul fucker. But you guys know what
I
I
like
mean when I
birds.
say
Foul.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys get it. I mean, this is a uniquely an American thing, and coming from Germany, I've been here for about 8 years. The whole world is laughing at you in the sense where they say we don't really understand why they do the things they do,
Yeah.
and what it's like to live under a system like that where healthcare is for profit, education is for profit. In Germany, the schools are free. The healthcare is for everybody. If you too poor, you can't have health care or insurance from your employer, they give it to you because it's illegal not to have it.
Right. Although I will
we
say
have-
that it's still for profit, but it's just arranged differently in that it's more humane to, a lot of the people
well,
at the
right.
bottom, right? So,
But it's they do have private insurance here, and that's a big differentiation. It's still a capitalist hellhole for sure in Germany. It's not perfect at all, but it's socialized in the sense that they do subsidize it with tax money, and for that, I just feel like the general populace is fairly like less likely to start like a fist fight inside of a restaurant like they are in America. I've been around. Seems like people are really relaxed, and they have stuff to lose. And people. I know what it's like to have nothing to lose. You don't care. You'll commit fraud. You'll commit shoplifting. You'll do whatever you need to do to survive. And there's crime linked in with homelessness and poverty. Um, but this video really set me off, and that's why I posted it, because there is something deeply wrong beyond just hospital policy and police brutality, which is and police malfeasance and overuse of their authority and misrepresentation of their authority. It's something deeper. It's like sociologically, psychologically, we took a wrong left turn at Albuquerque, somewhere, and this is what we got.
Yeah. Sherry?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that it's a shame that this video is, not trending, and people are not holding marches and demonstrations in the streets about this woman that obviously was sick, being murdered.
Yeah.
Was five white police officers and one African American police officer, and they just let a human being lay on the floor. Then they stuffed her in the back of the squad car, and I have like over 200 arrests, and I can think of like a million times that I was in the back of a paddy wagon or a squad car, and they would just like drive you around and like let you stay in the back of that car. And I was thankful that my health has been okay. But most people that I know, um, they're just, moments away from, dying themselves. I mean, they're definitely, people are psychologically scarred forever because of the trauma. There's no need to do these things. There's no need to, um, and the other thing that I found just, pathetic is they couldn't figure out how to lift her, um, because they didn't want to touch her.
Yeah.
That and the bringing out of the Lysol.
Yeah, I've got a clip of that,
Uh,
the immediately there.
okay, I'll be quiet.
That's okay. No,
I'd
no,
like
it's
to see.
yeah, I do have a click, so we'll get to that. And I also have a comment about the paddy wagon thing too, because there's I had an interesting experience with regards to that. I will say though, there was I was looking around, so I was trying to see what the media. I did find this article. This was like a ABC, a local affiliate, Knox County News, and I guess there was some protest, but you can see like there's a handful of people that are protesting. And I will also say, in addition to the protests, there are, um, Sherry and I have talked a lot about this, the nonprofit industrial complex that, then there are these parasitic groups that will then jump onto this, and you'll have these carpetbaggers show up into town, and you have to be careful of those people as well, because a lot of times they have other agendas that are self-serving or are also serving some other powerful interests. And I think that's really important. There's an old song by Bob Dylan. I'll try to do the Bob Dylan. I ain't gonna study war no more. I'll try to do the Bob Dylan. But that lyric, I'm not gonna study war no more. And I've always been very anti-war. And when I was a kid, I was like, you know what? I think I should study war. And I think we should all study war. If you want to end something, you have to actually really study it and understand why it's happening. And so when it comes to things like this, like I want to know, like, what are all the things that led to this thing happening? These hospital administrators being so dehumanized, these officers coming in being so dehumanized, because I don't think that's a natural thing. And I don't think it's just enough to point to the officers or the department or the hospital. Yes, those things should be pointed at, but we also have to look at the larger system. And I also found it interesting that like all the articles that I found were related to, really just putting all the blame on the hospital. There wasn't, or on the officers and the police departments, and there wasn't any discussion that I was able to find in my brief.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I didn't do a deep dive into it, but looking at the hospital itself, and they cleared this woman, and they said, "Oh, she's fine. Get her out of here." And there's, all the discussion is just framing it as a police brutality thing. But it's actually obviously much, much bigger, and there's a lot of different layers to it. So
I did want to mention too that I had a video about a week ago too that was about this young guy, Tyler Canaris from Georgia, who was stopped early in the morning on his way to work. And within 5 to 10 seconds of being, in the presence of police, the police body slammed him, broke his clavicle, broke his head. Well, it turned out to be he was completely innocent. They were looking for a guy breaking into cars. The only reason that this story even broke the news last week was because it went viral on Reddit. Somebody got a copy of this leaked video, leaked it everywhere. It had 40,000 upvotes to the point the press then could mention it. And this one, exactly the same story. I went to Reddit. I said, here's a video, it needs to be spread. I'm going to republish it and make sure it gets out there. Do my part. And probably the media, you can bet, was late to the table again with this one. So it's only because we fucking care,
Right. And I guess all I was saying is, once it gets that traction, we still have to be diligent and like saying, okay, now we have to be just as critical as the nonprofits and the politicians. And even the media, even if they're reporting it, because a lot of times they report it and they're spinning it and they're using it for whatever they want to use it for. And so like we have to remain vigilant like all the way through. And I think a lot of people let their guard down. They're like, oh, cool. The nonprofits have got it. Finally, someone's finally doing something about this, or the politicians are doing, and it's like, no, I mean, Sherry knows more than anybody that that's not the case.
Oh, 200 times arrested. You're my kind of person. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's way more than that. Actually, I think you quit. Sherry quit counting at 200 because, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's.
Yeah,
That's
but
what's up.
it's kind of a sad thing though, having to go to jail for, basic things like housing, or so that a kid can get the other half of their mouth, medical coverage for it, or just life and death kind of things. It's like pathetic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
But
having spent
but
time with you, Sherry, too, it's like once when I first went and visited you, I saw it like just every day there's like some new emergency, some new crisis, and it was never ending, and it's really horrible. Like, yeah,
But a lot of people go through that and don't get the chance to be this amazing advocate who's really fighting on behalf of not just yourself, right? But a larger group of people or a larger idea. That's yeah, at least you got that. That's cool. I mean, life's fucking hard, and when you're poor in America, it's ridiculously hard, and they don't make it easy to get back up again. And so I just my hat's
Yeah,
off to you,
well,
really.
I think being a part of like the testing case group of people, like the expendables on the bottom, um, it's like, we've been the first to be, the research people, where all the data was collected off of, and where the great, uh, you know computers and technology and all of these kinds of things that we can't even afford or have in our houses, um, and then, figuring out how to be a part of the permanently unemployed, with tons of other people that are trying to figure out how to eat, and how to, demand that a hospital that gets federal funds, uh, doesn't send you away in a squad car or a paddy wagon, or, uh, these are just like, um, everyday kinds of things that are happening in all different parts of the country right now. Um, and, I know I keep coming back to this robotics thing, um, but I'm seeing it every day. Um,
yeah,
it's just like, all the shitty little jobs that, people on the bottom used to be able to get, are gone. Like, here on, Second and Lehigh, right? I mean, I couldn't believe I was in there the other day trying to, at a McDonald's. I always thought it was like the shittiest McDonald's and the shittiest job for all these, seniors. And now it's all, with kiosk. And now they're moving towards automation with the making of the hamburgers. So it's like, you know, more and more this whole disconnect from humanity. Um, and especially talking to young people that are experiencing this stuff. I mean, we're really in trouble. We
yeah,
really are,
Yeah.
because they're very conscious, because they grew up, they were a part of the whole, they grew up on computers, they grew up with technology and robotics, and we thought that all this stuff was, this is, you probably don't know this, but there was a show called the Jetsons, and people flew around in cars and had little robots, and that was supposed to be a cartoon. It wasn't never supposed to come to reality. And now,
I'm 38. I know the Jetsons. Meet George
now it's
Jetson.
here. Now it's here, and
Yeah.
it's like, uh, yeah, like
It's a trip.
Disconnect.
Well, and it's more than just robotics, because the value there's actually a great value that poor people have to the new economy that's coming on, the new digital economy, and that's through social impact finance. So this is for another show, and I've been, Sherry knows, a mutual friend of ours, Allison McDowell, been looking into these all these new digital structures that are putting in place, and there are these markets, these entirely new markets that are being built around collecting data, and Sherry mentioned, like they use poor people as the test bed, but also they're going to be these new markets where they're going to they'll give you a little pod to live in, but they're going to have all these sensors, and they're going to track everything you do, and they're going to collect that data, and then they're going to have these, they're called social impact finance markets. So it's to explain, takes a little bit longer to explain, but basically these people create, they have these programs that they'll set up. It's a public-private partner saying, oh, we're going to help, the initial thing was, we're going to help prevent recidivism for prisoners. So prisoners get out, and then they have to jump through all these hoops, and they have a data dashboard, and they have to constantly, with QR codes or whatever, prove that they're improving or whatever. And then once all the metrics are met, then these venture capitalists will get paid back plus interest from the government. So it's this crazy public-private partnership that puts the poor and homeless people in. They're just commodities. They have no control over their own lives or their own anything. Yeah, that's a big topic that a lot of people don't really understand. Yeah.
Next time you invite me on here, remind me to get a bucket to throw up in, because I didn't know it was gonna.
Oh wait, it's so much worse. But yeah. But but Sherry is seeing it, she sees what's happening on the ground. She's at the front lines of all this. And so, yeah. So let me continue on. We'll do some more of this and we'll stop again.
Yeah.
Talk to the doctor. You've already been discharged from the hospital. They want you gone. I'm talking. I understand you say you got some problems going on. You're going to have to find a way to get out of here. So you're saying that you're going to go to jail?
Can you call the preacher for me?
Who?
The preacher. I guess it was preacher.
No, ma'am. You have a phone right there.
I don't know the number.
Now, how am I supposed to know the number to call the preacher then if you don't know the number?
Just tell me what's going on, or I load her up, because I ain't loading her up unless I know. So there's a arrest report and all that shit don't work.
Sergeant's finishing the arrest report right now.
Okay, so she's going to jail.
Yeah. What I just said.
What?
What I just said.
Oh, no. Okay.
Come on. She's not strapped in there, is she? No.
Oh, yeah, I am. My bag. Oh, no. Please don't let me fall again. I can't.
Yeah, you can do it. We have faith in you.
I'm moving this chair.
So her clothes are falling off.
I can't. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Just make it for me.
Oh, okay.
Ma'am, you're going to have to get in so we don't have to push you in.
Okay.
Well, that's all that progress will. Ma'am, listen, you're going to have to get up there because we're going to have to physically put you up there if not. And that's not as nice. So please help us help you.
Help us help you.
What a fucking asshole. They think she's a drunk homeless woman or something. They think that, they know what's going on.
Well, yeah, they repeatedly say that they think she's, faking it.
Okay,
you
it's
know.
not working. Okay, just stop. Okay? We're not doing this. So we're going to put you back there. We're not doing this no more with you. So quit. You've been medically cleared, so we know better.
So again, he's referring to the hospital told them she's been medically cleared. So then they're passing the buck off to the administrator, who bears responsibility as well.
Classic scenario in a top-down fascist society. We're just following orders. We put responsibility on other people. Medically cleared.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it in a fascist society. That's how you treat people.
Yeah, you commit inhumane acts and blame it on just following orders.
Somebody else. Yeah, following orders.
I need more muscle.
So then he's calling in,
I'm
you
just
know,
doing my job.
I'm not doing this with you, okay?
Yeah. The trick is getting the fascist laws passed. Then you're golden. Then you can have a fascist society. Get the laws passed. Then everybody's just following orders. But it's our job as fucking other, the rest of us have to lobby and protest and say, no, 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 no. But industry, especially, will always be, when you pull the mask off of fascism, it's always industrialists. Always.
yeah. Well, I would say it's above that are bankers. If we're creating a hierarchy, and there may be something even above that. Actually, I think the bankers
Right.
themselves are also, in some ways, managers of the system. But it's a system. Go ahead.
Well, I'm different from you in the sense that I think human beings are way too defective to actually have a decent conspiracy where everybody's on the same page all the time. But I'm open to being wrong. But I think this
Well,
is kind of what I
here's
think.
here's why you're wrong, because all these people here are you just said it yourself. All these people are following orders, and so what you do is you set up a protocol. You set up different protocol layers. The hospital has its own protocol layer. The police have their own protocol layer, and again, very few people have any real individual agency within this framework. So they know what the boundaries are of what their job position are. And then yes, people, in order to function in that, I have to do this horrible thing, so I'm just going to I'm going to treat this person like shit because it actually protects me, my mental thing of if I just think this is just a bad person, just like the people at war, if I think these Arabs are just terrorists, I can justify treating them like that. But I'm more interested in, it's a systemic thing, but there are rules to the game, and there are those who write those rules, and that
Right.
therein lies the conspiracy. And yes, there are people in power who get together outside of public,
Yeah.
outside of the public, that decide what these rules are. And so, I would just say that is a thing. And,
Well, the one thing about it though is that those people, and maybe you're talking about maybe it's 10 people, 100 people, WEF, or the
oh, it's
richest
way
bankers
bigger
in the
than
world,
that. Yeah. It's way bigger than that.
BlackRock,
Way bigger
whatever
than
it is.
that.
Whatever it is, these people at some point in the day get horny. At some point in the day, they get hungry. At some point in the day, they get tired. At some point in the day, they get lazy or hedonistic or whatever. So that's why I don't fully believe in that unless these people are absolutely alien, subhuman, beyond the scope of
Well, we see the
like.
results. We see the results, and I actually see, and Sherry might be able to attest to this. But in spite of all this horrible system, you see people doing amazing things, on the ground. And I think they want us to think that there's something defective about human beings. I think there's something defective about the people who are running the show. And I don't think they're
Sure.
honest. And I do think that they do shit behind the scenes and behind our back.
They know
And
what they're
yeah.
doing. Yeah.
And it's hard for us to wrap our minds around, someone that would, do something so evil. To me, it would just be more psychopathic or sociopathic. It's not that they're intentionally trying to hurt people. They don't care. They literally don't care about people like this. They don't care about any of this stuff that happens.
Yeah.
But in spite of that, you do see people, and I've seen it even working with Sherry, and Sherry, I'm sure, has lots of stories about people coming together in spite of everything against them, and showing compassion and being decent to one another and giving their last $2. And so I don't see it as humanity, because people talk about what is human nature. I don't know what human nature is outside of a system that we're all operating within. It's we don't have a what do you call that? Where you have a thing to compare it to. What's the word?
Contrast.
Not a contrast, but when they're doing a research thing, you have you give the person
control subject.
a control subject. Yeah, we don't have that. We all operate within these systems. The police are operating within their system. The hospital's operating within their system, and they're all operating within the system that's centered around money and how that all works. So, I actually don't know what human nature is. I don't know, Sherry. I think it's better than they say it is.
Well, well, first of all, I don't think that anybody is born with a special amount of courage or extra morals or values or anything like that. And I think that most people know wrong from right. And I think that the guy that's busy over with the suitcase and her purse, I think he's disturbed by what is going on a little bit. And so he's trying to busy himself over in that area. That's how I felt when I watched the thing. But at the end of the day, they are, uh, they are doing their job, and but they're not even doing a good job at their job, because I'm sure that there's some kind of basic protocols about having somebody that has mental health issues being addressed by somebody, by a social worker or something like that. That is not here in this situation. Um, these security, it's police and these security guards. I'm sure that these security guards that get their minimum wage, I mean, this one young guy, he just looks like he's standing around wishing that this whole thing would just like disappear.
Totally.
And he wouldn't have to be here in this situation. Um, and I think that, uh, it's no different than, it reminds me of, like the Warsaw Ghetto, and the people that patrol the ghetto. People get to make a decision about their actions, whether they're following orders or not. And this woman, clearly, she had an oxygen tank there. If you had half a brain, you heard that she was struggling the entire time to breathe.
Yeah.
And, just quite frankly, you don't need a rocket scientist. I think anybody would understand that you put somebody like in her poor health condition in the back of a car like that, something bad might happen. And the fact that he didn't give a shit, you're probably going to show some other clips, but um, just shows, um, that yes, definitely, we've passed a point in this country where, you know I say it all the time: if you're not expendable, if they can't exploit you, then you're expendable. And I think sadly she fit the category of somebody that was just expendable. And they knew on every single level, from the hospital to the security officers to the doctors to the officers, um, that they could take a life or risk taking a life and nothing would happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely agree. If you pay attention to the stuff she's got her blanket and everything. She just they took that as a sign that she's a poor person that nobody's going to care about, possibly homeless, possibly on drugs, blah blah blah. In a state where the education is very low, to where that laws get passed that allow them to, you know, the worst stuff that capitalism does happens in places where they've taken away education. And Tennessee doesn't really rank high on education, and these police are all visibly out of shape. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's so fucking sad, man.
Yeah. When I also
Sorry.
too again wonder like what there's something that's robbed of people that are put in these positions too. What would these people be like outside of the uniform and outside of those protocols? I mean, yeah, a lot of them would still probably be callous, but like the guy over here or this guy over here that's like, I don't know, I'm not comfortable. He might be the one that would be actually helping her if he didn't have that uniform on and he weren't in this situation where, there's a lot of other things that are happening there where, you know what I mean? I'm not taking away from the responsibility that the individuals that are in this have. I'm just saying, in addition to that, there are these other layers that helped create this situation in the way that it was.
We can really only hope that one of them walks away from any of these experiences. This is not a unique experience. That one of these cops or
Well,
whoever's responsible
yeah.
walks away and goes, I can't do this shit anymore.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like has a, well, even think about like how embarrassing, like that black officer, which will be coming up in a minute, just, you know, chastising her. I imagine like, I mean, his family, I'm sure he'd be embarrassed to like, oh God, like, you know, I'm sure it's like someone's giving him grief about that. Like, dude, what are you doing? You know? So yeah, I imagine.
But justification in like a totalitarian society goes all the way deep. Everybody's, you know, on board with the idea that this is how it is, and you know they didn't play by the rules, and some people get killed when they don't play by the rules. You know, like what is it, the Milgram experiment, where they're electrocuting people to a certain degree just
Yeah.
because they're told to, and they're like, oh, you just killed
Yeah.
them.
Well, not only that, like I'm sure and I haven't seen, but I'm sure there's a lot of people like, you know, going, oh, she didn't take care of herself. She's not in good health. And therefore she deserves, you know, like, you know, kind of blaming her for, you know, being, you know, she put herself in this situation. I'm sure that there's a lot of that going on in people's minds
So
out there.
the equivocations that I got from being on the internet, posting this video, and seeing it on Reddit go live, there's one equivocation that was, but she was medically cleared. I don't understand what the big deal is. She was medically cleared and she couldn't trespass because that's private property. And like I tried to explain, like, here, take a step back, think about a systematic change. No, but she was medically cleared. I don't.
Yeah.
Some people just.
Well, and that goes into people's blind faith and trust in authority, especially medical authority. We won't have that conversation, but there's a lot to be said there.
That's another podcast.
That's like another series of podcasts. Okay.
Let's see.
I need more muscle.
Listen to me. I'm not doing this with you, okay? This is the Lord. Listen to me. This is the Lord's day. All I want to do is give me some coffee and some oatmeal. We're not going to deal with your mess this morning. We've already spent too much time on you. You're going to get up here in this van and you're going to go to jail. We're done with this. I'm tired of this dead weight crap. Listen to me. You're going to pick your legs up and you're going to get in here.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, how insane is this?
Well, she's going limp and going kind of.
She's dead weight. She's not helping you a bit.
Well, you're about to get some, you know what's about to happen? You're about to get some more charges. That's what's about to happen.
Okay.
Sit back. Quit coming out.
Okay.
Let's just try to get her back that way.
Arresting a dying person. It's not so easy, is it, boys?
Going out where?
Out of my head.
But if something happens to her back there,
So this is interesting piece because the paddy wire, they were going to try to put her in the back here. And this guy says, well, I'll let him, you can hear what he has to say, but you know, basically he's like, I don't want to be responsible for something. So they clearly knew like there was a risk of death here. Like, I mean, they clearly say like, if she dies, I don't want to be responsible.
that's on me.
41 by lobby, one now,
She's too big to lay on her side, and especially if they're saying she can't breathe.
We can probably pull her in there and then somebody like I said just climb over because she's been discharged.
I understand it, sir.
I
You understand the liability for
I
me?
understand your liability.
Put her in there sideways. She's gonna.
Oh no,
stop
I'm
breathing.
not saying put her in there sideways. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, how you gonna get her in there?
We can pull her back in there, get in there and pull her back in there.
Okay, but what are you gonna do? Lay her down?
No. Once we can just
She's gonna sit her up. She's gonna fall down.
Now, she won't be able to fall over if you stick her in the back with her back up towards the.
That's what I'm saying. She's too big to fit in there this way. And so you understand, she's saying she can't breathe. If she falls over either way, she can't breathe, she dies, that's on me.
I got you.
I'm not willing to take that risk.
I got you. I wouldn't blame you. You do not have an inhaler. That is what everything.
So I'll stop there real quick because the inhaler is another piece of this that was interesting.
Liability.
Yeah.
That's the real reason.
Yeah. Thoughts, Sherry?
Go ahead, Sherry.
Well, I'm very familiar with the back of that paddy wagon. And, you know, I mean, it's just amazing how we haven't heard about more people, you know, because it's just a regular thing, right?
Yeah, people dying.
Officers. Well, yeah. people dying in the back of those paddy wagons. They're so hot and inhumane, and I can't believe that they still put human beings in those things. But yeah, I mean, he clearly was afraid at that point. He didn't care if she died on the side,
Yeah.
because at least, again, he would be following protocol. But if he was caught not following protocol and putting her in the back and she died, that would be a different story. So the point is that he didn't care if she died. He just didn't want to be responsible.
Right.
Hmm.
The paddy wagon thing, I actually had the pleasure of riding in one time. But actually for dumb shit, like not something cool like protesting poverty. But yeah, the guy that was driving it, there were like three of us back there, and I swear this guy was fucking with us. Like he was making these hard turns and shit, and like literally I had to put my feet up against the wall in order to not just be like thrown around like a rag dog back there. I mean, it was
you had a rough ride.
I had a rough ride.
It's a rough
Oh, is that
ride.
what yeah. And then and like the guy didn't go directly to, like it took us, I think it took over an hour for this drive that should have taken like 10 minutes. Like, I don't know. He went to other places. He like stopped and got coffee. I don't know. It was like, I mean, it was like over the top. Like, and that was just like my experience. I mean, I'm sure there's like, I mean, that was not like, I mean, it wasn't that big. I mean, I just braced myself. It wasn't, but like if someone's like not in, I know people that have had too much to drink or whatever might have like if you're knocking around, you can get knocked unconscious, and I know people have died in the back of those things. So yeah, they're pretty brutal. And there's two sides. I don't know if this is the same, but like they had like one side for the men and one side for the women. So I don't know if there's like a wall between the middle, at least the one that I was in. This looks like it was a similar sort of situation, but yeah, pretty, what year is it? Yeah, pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So the next part here is like go ahead.
No, and the thing that always blows my mind is, like the autistic man that was shot down in Philadelphia, right? Right after the initial uprisings that took place. It just amazes me that they don't have to follow some kind of other kind of protocol by alerting social workers or other professionals to deal with these kinds of situations, right? I know for the behavioralist, if a behavioralist would have been consulting the officer how to deal with this one autistic guy that was shot here and murdered, it would have been a different situation.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw a similar video not too long ago of a mentally ill 70-year-old who was demented and didn't know where she was, and they broke her wrist. It seems like just standard procedure at this point.
Well, were you? I don't
Anybody
know if you,
who's
Chris,
in
were
the
you in
crosshairs gets it.
Yeah, Chris, were you in Colorado when the Elijah McClain incident happened?
What
about
year
Elijah.
was that?
This was 2020.
Which shooting was that?
Well, it wasn't a shooting. Elijah McClain was also an autistic kid. He played violin, and he was just a very soft-spoken, really sweet kid, black kid. And he was walking, walking. No, they didn't shoot him.
What happened?
He was walking home and they were harassing him, and he was just like, just leave me alone. Like, I want to go home. And they thought he was acting weird. So they thought he was on drugs or whatever. And then they ended up like tackling him and then handcuffing him. And then the EMTs came and they gave him like a ketamine to calm him down. And the ketamine actually killed him. But there were massive protests out here. But again, you have this relationship between the medical and the police. That's not a healthy, it's not a good, healthy relationship. And it's real problematic.
Bro, how much scotch am I going to have to drink tonight just because I'm having this conversation? Jesus Christ. What the fuck is wrong with people?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty crazy story. But Elijah McClain it was 2020 when that happened. So
Yeah. So, and the mistake of, mental illness and criminality, it's like, don't expect any mental illness assistance. If you're schizophrenic or whatever, leave the country, because the minute you have an episode, you're dead. Okay, so I'll just go on a brief tirade. I interviewed a buddy of mine who was high on acid, on LSD, sitting on a parked car, not hurting anybody, playing his guitar. Well, the car wasn't his, it was his neighbor's, and he was a little, high. He didn't realize it. And the cops come and just beat him almost to death and tased him, you know, 30 times or something like this in a matter of a few minutes. And he spent some time in the hospital, and he's the nicest, sweetest kid I ever met. And so it's, any mental condition you might have, any little slip up where you having a little tantrum, and because things are hard, they will come and just put fucking bullets in you for stuff. Um, it's not like that everywhere, but
yeah, I'll have to do
America's
another
special.
show. There's a good friend of mine, Janet Vanderlock here in Colorado, who was her son had schizophrenia, and she was a big advocate for, getting the police to not have anything to do with mental health calls. And sadly, she passed away a couple years ago. But I'll do it. I'll do a show about her, because she was a pretty amazing human being as well. Okay, so this next part is kind of about she kept throughout the whole thing. I cut out some of the other, but she kept asking for her inhaler. She said, "I need my inhaler," and they couldn't find it, so they were like, "Oh, you don't have an inhaler. You don't have an inhaler." And then the other guys back there still looking for it or whatever. So
I got you.
I'm not willing to take that risk.
I got you. I wouldn't blame you. You do not have an inhaler. That is what everything is coming out of your purse looking for your inhaler. This is all you have in there.
Right there, the green one. Yeah.
Hey, it's not one in the suitcase.
Right there.
Please hurry. Okay.
You say you can't breathe. Let's do the inhaler.
Hey, when Tim gets here, we need to tell him to load her, just so we can hear him say stop it.
She's not even using the inhaler.
Yeah, it's just blowing all
It's
out.
just blowing out. You're not even using the inhaler, ma'am. Okay, let's make a deal. You want your jacket? You sit your butt up.
Yeah.
No. You got down there. You got down there. You can get up.
Right on it.
She's got plenty of money.
So here's a woman who's like slurring her words. She's obviously having a hard time, and they're questioning her, whether or not she's even using her inhaler, and then they like want to make a game out of it. Well, if you sit up, we'll let you have your coat. I mean, how sick is that?
This is fucked up, man. Jerry? What are you gonna say, right?
No, yeah. I belong to a family where myself, my son Mark, and my other son Guillermo, we've all now sued the Philadelphia Police Department. Never did I think that, my whole family would sue and settle out of court, police brutality cases. And all of these were, just trying to make life better for other people. Not even like messing with the cops or anything like that, but just, so yeah, it's bad news.
When I know the
And
family,
I know,
go ahead.
yeah. No, I know what it's like to be yanked around, tossed around, carried by my arms, hog-tied, held guns to my head, on my knees in stairwells, held for 3 days with no charges. And, and then I ran, this is a whole different story, but ran with Dr. Jill Stein for vice president. And Secret Service made us disappear for like 24 hours and nobody knew where we were. So there's like, um,
Holy
yeah,
shit!
there's no illusion of security.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, on the lawsuit thing too, I know the family is looking to sue at least the police. I didn't see any mention of like suing the hospital or anything, but like they're trying to put it all on the police, which obviously the police bear a great deal of responsibility here. But even the lawsuit thing, I saw this a long time ago. Is yes, we want money to go to the victims, but a lot of times, they settle, it gets settled out of court. There's non-disclosure agreements. There's a lot of problems even with that. It's basically like, okay, we'll just pay you to go away, and that's like part of the budget. But then like
Right.
nothing ever changes. Like it's just business as
Mhm.
usual, and they just like
Right.
they add it as a line item on their budget.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
I
lawyers
mean,
are
police.
part of the process too,
oh yeah.
because the lawyers tell you that it'll never go to court, you'll never get the money, but it's really because they're making backroom deals on top of your legal case.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
need an out-of-state lawyer who's not connected to come in, and they're the most expensive because they got to travel. But I mean, what do you think, Sherry? What are we supposed to do? Obviously, saying good, but what are we supposed to do? What's your technique? Are there still pro bono lawyers that would still want to crack some skulls out there and for a good cause?
Yes, but they're very few and far between.
Yeah. There's not very many.
Um,
Like you can count on
and
one hand, basically.
yeah, I mean, they've been going down and down and down as life gets harder and harder and things get worse out here. Yeah, I mean, initially when I first got started, I wanted to walk around with a sign that said, free lunch for any attorney that represents somebody. Or, I'll give you $50 for, wanted, a humane lawyer, right? I'm back to that now, because you can really count them on one hand now. And some of the, like Ted Dooley, he was an amazing attorney. He took on the FBI, he did all of this other stuff, right? And sure enough, the poor guy had to die on us. But there are very few now, um, because a lot of the corporations caught on, uh, and so they made sure that there was different nonprofit jobs, um, that they could get to supplement their incomes as attorneys. And then, like, the utility companies donate money to their nonprofit so they can't, protect families against the gas company, the electric, the water company, the whatever. But yes, it all goes back to money and politics. And,
Yeah.
we need those radical lawyers to jump back on the scene, because
So what?
things are going to
So
just get much worse.
did they just jump right over to these symbolic jobs? At what you guys both said, symbolic helpers of society. You probably like people like Greenpeace or any kind of organizations that's too big for its own britches. Has is that where these lawyers went?
Well, I think well-meaning, but they had no idea, I think, what they were getting into. Just a quick example. Um, the Homeless Advocacy Project was set up here in Philadelphia. Um, and one day when I was sleeping outside with a bunch of homeless women, outside the shelter because they didn't have any place to go, demonstrating that there was no place for them to go. Then the city sent these progressive lawyers from the Homeless Advocacy Project over to basically tell the women, you guys got to get out of here because you're going to end up getting your kids taken by DHS. Um, and I'm saying to myself, wow, is this really happening here? Instead of saying, we're going to stand by these women, where the fuck are they supposed to go? Um, they were warning them to go hide. Um, so something really has to change. And so that's, I know Jason is this way. I'm very much this way. Nowadays, I say, hello, how are you? And where do you get your money? Because,
We got to
and
get
then maybe
T-shirts
I'll
made
ask,
up. Get the
where do you
T-shirts.
get your money? Because that has a lot to do with,
Whose
how you
payroll are you on?
approach it. Yeah. Whose payroll are
Yeah.
you on?
Yeah.
The rhetoric, that's done.
Yeah.
All this stuff about great slogans, classy brochures, that say, all this liberal, progressive crap, um, many times has nothing to do with humanity or human rights at the end of the day.
Yeah. And it's a
Right.
good story, they'll give you a really good story. And especially younger people, like, you have young people that are just graduating college or something, they'll make it really appealing. Like you're going to go out there and you're going to change the world and you're going to do all this. And it usually takes years and years before people actually realize that they've been duped. And by then they've got a house, they've got a mortgage, and they've got a family. And they're like, okay, well, what do I do now? When you're young, you can afford to like be crazy and like take risks and not have to worry about it. And it's by design. And they start like
Right.
through every, I think they start pretty early with, there's a whole bunch of processes that go on to create the situation that we're in,
Right. That's a good point. I mean, look at, they start from an early age. TV, consumerism, get them hooked on certain ideas and then you get a little bit older and you go to college and they teach you certain ideas there and they don't tell you about the other stuff. I know economists that were never taught Marxist ideas. I talked to a vet that was never taught holistic medicine. They indoctrinate the expert, the future expert, the professor emeritus of whatever you're going to study. And they make sure, like I did a big ag guy the other day, he really thinks industrialized agriculture is, just fine and dandy. Indoctrinated to have a capitalist mindset, to funnel money to the top, basically. So,
all right. So we got a couple more minutes here. We'll go ahead and just finish this out here.
Sucks to be low man on totem pole.
Oh, he says sucks to be low man on the totem pole. Like we don't want to be here. Like we're stuck in this shit situation.
ooh. So they send the worst cops.
Still an act because she was walking fine. They discharged her, and she was still walking fine. She just now she's playing games.
Well,
So I don't know who that is talking. I'm not sure if that's like one of the police officers or one of the security guards or someone from the hospital. But yeah, basically just again, I've seen this firsthand, and I'm sure I know Sherry has as well, where people are like, oh, you're, basically they just don't believe anything, someone says, when they're in that situation.
we've come up with plan S. She's going in the back of that Charger at the lowest profile thing here.
I was kind of thinking just leave her on the sidewalk, throw a wet blanket over, and everybody can go about their day.
So he says we can just
shit.
leave her on the sidewalk, throw a blanket over her, and everyone can just go about their day. So again, I don't know who this guy
America.
is. I'm actually kind of curious who this dude is. But yeah, I mean, who thinks like that? Like that's.
She's already got a warrant on her now. And Peter's
He says, "Oh, we can't do that because she's already got a warrant on her now." As if like that would be an option if she didn't have the warrant.
sidewalk.
I'm gonna have a stroke. I'm gonna have a stroke. Oh no, my leg.
Stand up.
My
Walk.
legs.
We know you can walk. Now stop.
It's twisted. Oh no. Okay. Now set
Shut
me
up.
up. Set me up. Now set me up.
She's saying, "Set me up now. Set me up." And there's a whole bunch of I cut it out, but there's a whole bunch of stuff where she's in the back breathing hard, and she's like, I need to set me up, and yeah, they just kind of at some point just give up, even like trying to talk to her.
Set yourself up. Hold this foot up where it's gonna get
Say me up.
Need some Virex is what I need. Want to spray that? Yes.
So here's the Lysol. You know, they're spraying each other down. Another guy comes up to wipe the car down in a minute. So I'll just read this. Edwards was placed in the back of Officer Timothy DeStacio's police cruiser for transportation to the Roger D. Wilson detention facility. While en route to the detention facility, Officer DeStacio conducted a traffic stop on a car that was driving recklessly on I-640 near the Broadway exit. After briefly making contact with the driver, Officer DeStacio discovered Edwards unresponsive in the back seat of the cruiser. So, which I guess
See the heartwarming conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So again, I just cut this down. So she breathed like this for quite a while.
Oh my God. I'm not driving that.
Yeah, I have some situation at the hospital. I gotta take her. No. Yeah, they should be. I don't know. She's not responding back here.
So now she's not responding.
Hey, come on,
She's
sit up.
fucking dead.
Yeah, I think she died. I don't know if she died. I think she died the next day. I need to check. But it looked like she died the day after.
Check on that.
I'll check. Yeah, I'll double check.
I don't know if she's faking it or what, but she's not answering me.
Oh, I guess I could read this. I'm not a very good reader, apparently. I'm going to edit this anyway. EMTs arrived on the scene shortly after Edwards was found unresponsive and transported her back to Fort Sanders Regional Medical Center, where she passed away on February 6th, which was the day after. The incident remains under active investigation by the Knoxville Police Department's Internal Affairs Unit. Oh yeah, don't worry, everybody. They're on.
Jesus Christ.
Knoxville Police Department conducts a thorough and detailed administrative reviews to ensure that the actions of the officers and employees meet the department's high standards. And we all know how that. We all know how that turns out. Yeah. So
pigs. Yeah, pigs investigating pigs. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, so that's the short. And again, you can watch the full thing at Chris's channel, The Homeless Romantic, and I'll add a link. I'll add a link to this in the.
It's a real feel good story there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I just thought it would be a good opportunity to have a conversation and also check in with my good friend Sherry. Any final words on that video and that particular issue or issues?
Yeah, I think don't let it happen. People are, if you're interested in organizing low-income people in your part of the country, reach out to us. I'm sure Jason will put our information somewhere.
Bam.
And bam, you're so organized.
Poor People's Army.
Bam. The Poor People's Army, Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. This is a life and death situation that we're dealing with. We learned about a group of peasants in Chiapas, and they got organized because people were dying because they didn't have access to medical. They didn't have access to housing. The political system didn't give a damn about them, and they were being murdered and killed by the police, and nobody was doing anything about it. Well, guess what? We live in the belly of the beast. We have a responsibility to take care of each other, not to just complain about these things, but to ensure that we have a way to feed, clothe, and house our soldiers as we build a different kind of system for all of us.
And by the way, this is a photo.
Oh,
I was just going to say, I found this photo of Lisa and maybe her granddaughter or something.
That's so sad, man.
Yeah. And condolences to her family. She was a human being. She should never have been treated in any way, shape, or form by any of those criminals that were involved in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
On that light note, Chris, did you have some final words on that?
Well,
Thank you for
what are you gonna
sharing that, by
say?
the way. I mean, I wouldn't have, I probably would have missed it had I not, because I don't actually follow, like, I don't really pay any attention to the mainstream media at all anymore. So even if it did get some coverage,
Yeah.
and I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I do subscribe to your channel. So
Yeah, I appreciate that, and obviously, you got to keep your head out, and when you see stuff like this, everybody share it because yeah, we're on our own. There's no more press. There's no more police. There's no more um, help. There's no welfare. There's nothing is gonna change. We need to do something. Now is the time. There's a
Yeah.
revolution happening. The fascists are well organized. They are really well at groupthink. They're coming together. They're talking about massacring poor people, trans people, black people, um, everybody who's a minority, everybody who's always been on the bottom. That's who they're going to try to go for. And so we need to mobilize. The left needs to stay strong, or whatever direction you want to lean. But the fact, if you're an empathetic human being, get together with other, you know, animal rights is trans rights is black rights. It's all interconnected to be oppression. When we want equality, we want justice. So that's all I can really say.
when I'll just end with that, yes, we do need to be vigilant. We need to challenge the capitalist thing. But I will say that an entirely new system is coming online. There's a digital transformation that's happening. People like to talk about the fourth industrial revolution or the World Economic Forum or whatever, but it's way bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. I mean, Colorado, they're looking at changing Colorado wants to be the first digital state, and there are entirely new markets that are being set up around impact finance, data, and poor people are at the front lines, and they're actually merging socialist and capitalist ideas into a new system. So be just as weary of the people that are presenting the solutions to these things as you are to the people that are creating the initial problems, because you'll actually, if you start to scratch the surface and dig a little bit deeper, you'll actually find a common thread, because they know that the system is, this is the old system. They've got a new system that's coming online, and a lot of the ideas will sound good. We're going to create equality. We're going to save the planet. We're going to stop climate change. We're going to help poor people. But it's all about pulling people into a cybernetic digital system. And so yeah, I do a lot of stuff on that with Allison McDowell, and
I want you to come on my show as soon as possible because I want to hear all about this.
yeah, well, and we have my channel has stuff. Allison's channel has a lot of stuff. It's kind of actually Sherry's son Mark was like, this stuff is kind of heavy. I sent it to him. It's like, this is kind of dense, but because it is a lot of stuff, but it is happening. Like, and people are being caught off guard because they don't actually understand what's coming. And a lot of the old rules are changing very dramatically. So,
well,
anyways, and I will say that the do good, we're gonna, the political parties and the nonprofits are merging through public-private partnerships. Oh my gosh, who is this?
Aww, it's a baby.
It's a little baby. Who is this, Sherry?
I had to protect his identity. His name is Donut.
Oh, he's got a donut look to it. Oh my gosh, look at those eyes. How adorable.
Donut. In Philadelphia, they are stockpiling children in the Department of Human Services.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because they're putting out cots in the office because there's no place for them to go. So
yeah.
Well,
and I just, I am so grateful to know you, Sherry, because I've learned so much from you, and one of the things that I love too, I remember us going to some university and there were a bunch of they were students like looking at they were students studying what do they call it? Social services, or what's the correct terminal? Anyways, so Sherry comes in there and is basically telling them how to break the law, and she was like, she's like, you got to do what's right. You're going to have protocols, right? But so like, Yeah, that's what I love about you. You're there, and right there. And I'm looking forward for Donut, taking up the mantle here. Donut.
Donut's
So
got a hold of you.
while we have you, Donut, what do you think about the situation?
He thinks
Donut
it
has no
sucks.
idea. Yeah.
Donut's going to be
Donut
living
knows.
and dealing with all the things that we're talking about.
Yeah,
So-
I can see a future Poor People's Army PPERK.
We're trying, Donut. We're trying.
Oh man. Well, I
Try to pave the way.
Donut, Donut was living, living nowhere.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
So
You got
he was in the.
he found a home.
He was he was going through no, and he had gone through the weeks. There's a certain amount of weeks where your brain begins to be impacted and it stops growing if you don't have like human touch and being held and all these things. And the hospital had 2 nurses for 50 children going through withdrawal. So
Jesus
I
Christ.
came to hold Donut, and I didn't stop holding him.
Yeah, he's adorable.
Donuts.
And
Nice
his brain is growing.
That's awesome.
Good.
Well, he's got a head. He's got a good head on him.
His brain is growing rapidly now.
That's awesome.
Give him a chance.
Well, thank you both for.
So Donut is officially becoming, a brother of the other brothers.
That's awesome. Well, and I know, I wasn't there with Mark growing up, but I was there for a large part of Guillermo growing up, and just seeing how the whole community, one of her sons, Guillermo, watching just how the whole community, come together and is like participates in that development and the raising in that group. So that was beautiful.
There's Uncle Jason.
Hi, Donut.
Hi.
Well, I'm hoping to come out there this year, so hopefully I'll get to meet Donut in person and we'll play some chess.
Well, of course. He needs everything. Feel free to bring Donut something.
I will bring him some donuts.
Oh
no. Sherry gets the donuts with the.
No, he's still working with the drug doctor. They're trying to all stimulants.
Vegan donuts, vegan sugar-free donuts.
Yeah. Go vegan, everybody. That's my big injection here.
Okay, vegan.
That's my thing. Yeah, it's good for you.
Go
well
vegan.
Balanced. No oppression, no exploitation. It's nice.
Oh, he's got the Michael Jordan shirt on. That's.
Well, we get all of our stuff from the thrift store,
Yeah. No, it's funny when you see third world countries and then the kids have a
Mickey Mouse
or Boys to Men or whatever. I'm sure.
You're like, how do they know that?
Yeah. And Julio Iglesias, really? You're a big fan? That's funny. Well,
so my 8-year-old, they had to go get my 8-year-old because the schools had a lockdown a couple times this week from shootings.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why Donut joined us.
Well, I'm glad he's there. You're in a good home there, Donut. Huh? That face.
Hi, Donut.
Hi.
Too
Hi.
funny.
You have friends in Germany?
And
Yeah.
Denver.
In Denver?
You're very
He
worldly.
says another world is possible.
Yeah, I've heard that one
He
before.
said another
I'll
world
believe
is
him.
possible.
Tell him I need all the hope I can get.
Well, Obama told us there's change is coming and hope.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really grateful for both of you and the work that you do, and I'll connect you guys up. And Donut, you take care of Sherry. Make sure she doesn't get into any trouble. Keep her from getting arrested, Donut. She's always in trouble with the law.
Yeah.
Thanks, you
Okay,
guys.
bye.
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 Bye.